Is Supergirl copying Starlord? This is from Mr. Headcanon, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to his channel and look at the original video link in the description, but I have a feeling he's gonna say no. You guys let me know what you think in the comments if Supergirl is, in fact, a Starlord clone copy. They said that about Superman. The movie came out. He wasn't like Starlord at all, you know? But that's what they wanted to label it as. This one, I don't know. We'll see. Let's check it out. Don't forget, brand new superhero reaction channel. Subscribe for more stuff like this.
Is Supergirl copying Starlord's style and the Guardians of the Galaxy formula?
Comment.
Both characters wear similar trench coats and the same type of headphones.
The same
Both
trench
characters
coat
wear similar trench coats and the same type of headphones.
and the same headphones. Those actually aren't quite as similar as I thought they were. The headphones are completely different. They're just both orange. But the trench coat is in Woman of Tomorrow. The headphones is not. So I'll give them that.
They jam to 80s pop hits,
That's also not in the book. The headphones in the 80s is not. But come on, guys. 80s music, it's in so many movies.
drown their sorrows in booze, and bond with a dying animal in the trailers. The movie's overall vibe
You couldn't tell in the trailers that it was she was bonding with a dying animal. That's a bit of a spoiler, okay? They may not even go that route, so we'll see.
feels so similar, some fans are calling this movie Guardians 4. But is DC actually trying to copy Guardians of the Galaxy, or is this just a happy coincidence?
He's got his Ray-Bans today. Looking pretty fancy, Mr. Headcanon.
Before blaming the costume team for being uninspired, Supergirl's trench coat is lifted straight from the comic Woman of Tomorrow,
Indeed
which
it
the
is.
movie is based on. In the first issue, Supergirl tries to go incognito on a planet with a red sun so she can get drunk on her birthday, just like Superman mentioned at the end of his movie.
Actually, he didn't mention at the end of his movie that she did it for her birthday. He said she likes to go to planets with red suns so that she can get drunk. So at the end of Superman, they made her sound just kind of like a drunk. You know what I mean? Whereas in Woman of Tomorrow, that's not the case. She's not a drunk. She just is getting drunk to celebrate her 21st birthday. That's not the case in the trailer. The trailer's just 23.
But under the trench coat, Supergirl's still wearing her usual suit, just like in the scene. So the coat is not really a copy of Starlord's. It's a faithful adaptation of the comic.
Now, where I will give it to the Guardians of the Galaxy people is that this book was written after Guardians of the Galaxy was made. So it could have been influenced by Guardians of the Galaxy. That's possible. But the book doesn't read like Guardians of the Galaxy, so I don't know. Plus, she doesn't have the headphones, you know, I don't know.
What's definitely not a coincidence is that in the teaser, we see Supergirl rocking this look in a bunch.
Oh, wait, but that's another point. See them glasses? That's very Nirvana. That's very 1990s. That's very Kurt Cobain. That's not James Gunn. You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't in the book. That also wasn't in Starlord. He didn't wear sunglasses like that, so where are we getting that from? You know what I mean?
Not a coincidence is that in the teaser, we see Supergirl rocking this look in a bunch of scenes, not just from the first act. If my guesses are right, this scene where Supergirl looks weak is from the second act, when Kara ends up stranded on a planet with a green Kryptonite sun.
Spoiler alert.
He is spoiler alerting, first of all, which I don't like, Mr. Headcanon. But I feel like you're deducing a lot. I don't know. Let's see. I'm not really sure if we can tell from that scene that she is, in fact, hurt from a green, Kryptonite sun. Man, he's
And
spoiling
this
a lot.
shot of her yelling happens after she witnesses some evil space pirates committing crimes, something that should also happen in the second act.
Maybe,
in
yeah.
both scenes, she's not even wearing the suit under the trench coat, whereas in the comic, she drops the coat and sticks with the suit after the first few pages. I've got a feeling they kept the more greedy look for most of the movie to show the character's growth, so she only looks fully heroic in the third act.
Okay, that actually does make sense. That's possible. I mean, it might be wrong. It's possible. That could be a way they go with it.
When she finally takes off the trench coat and just wears the suit. So in this case,
or it gets like burned or blown up or something.
the Starlord comparison doesn't really hold, but the one that totally feels like a copy-paste from Guardians is Krem. In the
I don't know that he feels like a copy paste. That's what people say. To me, it doesn't. I mean, it's just like the 80s look of like, Little Monsters and that kind of stuff. But yes, Krem was a handsome guy in this, weird looking but handsome. He's not. I kind of wish they had kept him handsome. You know what I mean? Like, I really do. I feel like that kind of gives it a different, something different there when the villain is handsome, you know?
Comics, he looked like this, but in the movie, they turned him into one of the Ravagers, with piercings all over his face.
Yeah, I don't like that. I wish that he was more handsome. I wish that he wasn't so villainous. That's just me though, you know? And is there a Ravager that looks like that with the needles all over their face? Or is that just more like 80s inspired stuff?
And a leather outfit. I get that they wanted to tweak the design a bit so he wouldn't look like Groundskeeper Willie, but if you told me that this character was from a Guardians of the Galaxy spin-off, I'd buy it. It doesn't help that he's teaming up with a group of space pirates who are basically a super violent version of the
Where is the guy with the pins and needles? I don't see one. I don't even see anybody that looks like him.
Ravagers. From the little we've seen.
See those aliens in the background? People were like, oh, they didn't just use aliens. Yes, there are. I see in the background, there are alien-looking people like in the comic that are very different looking. They say these comments, but then when I see the thing, it's not the comments that the thing about the thing of that.
Of them in the trailers, their designs look a lot like the ones in Guardians of the Galaxy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, since in the comics they also look quite similar.
A ludicrous parcel of driveling galoots.
And it's not like the Guardians movies invented space pirates. If anything, the pirate subplot's gonna feel way more like Treasure Planet, which came out 12 years before Guardians, and was a reinterpretation of a book from the 80s. Still, it's a bit suspicious that they changed the vibe from Woman of Tomorrow. The comic has panels with super vibrant colors and wild settings, but the first teaser doesn't show any of that. Maybe they're just saving it for the movie, but the colors and more realistic lighting feel way more like Guardians of the Galaxy than anything from the artwork.
I haven't felt that about the colors. I'm like, the lasers are there, but the Guardians movies are pretty colorful, especially like his ship and all that, whereas they were saying that this trailer didn't have any colors. So I get confused on that comparison.
By Bill Quisevely and colors by Matt Lopez. I'm guessing they probably did that to give the movie a more serious tone and make it feel more like a western. It'd be kinda weird to tell a live-action western with super bright colors like they did in the comic.
I guess.
But at the same time, some shots in the teaser look like they're straight out of Guardians, even though Gunn didn't write or direct this movie. And there are more similarities, like Supergirl's headphones. In this poster and in both of the vertical teasers, we see Supergirl wearing headphones.
The orange is really... If it was just headphones, I would not give it to anybody. I'd be like, okay, so Marty McFly, you know what I mean? he's from James Gunn. But the orange, that is a weird choice. At least go with red. You know what I mean? Like something that just is bright, but I don't know. But why the orange?
Headphones that look suspiciously similar to Starlord's. That's weird, because in the comic, Supergirl doesn't listen to music at all. In fact, it doesn't even make sense for her to be using gear from the 80s. Starlord did it because that's the era when he was kidnapped by the Ravagers.
That is a fantastic point. That there is no reason that she should be using 80s stuff, other than the fact that you could consider cassette tapes to be kind of hardy, whereas, drives are corruptible. But I guess a magnet can corrupt a tape. I don't know.
Having left Earth unwillingly back in '88, he missed out on CDs, USB drives, smartphones, and noise-canceling headphones. He would have loved those. But Supergirl takes place in 2026, after the events of Superman, so she is supposed to have access to all the modern Earth tech. And don't try to tell me that these are space headphones that you...
Now, I will say this though. My daughter, she's a teenager. She likes to use a Walkman with tapes and, listen to records. She does all that. So 80s stuff is in. So for someone her age, this day and age, it's not that weird. But for Supergirl specifically, who has no ties to the 80 on the top, it sounds weird. But for her age, though, it's popular.
Just happen to look exactly like the ones people used in the 80s.
That's just lazy writing.
I guess they could try to justify it by saying it's easier to charge a Walkman in space with harbulary batteries than to carry a phone that's gonna lose signal and die super fast. But the look and vibe Supergirl gives off in these images are clearly inspired by Starlord, the classic rebellious character who loves.
Well, that jacket is much different. I didn't really realize that. The way people were talking, I thought it was exactly the same. I hadn't watched it in a while, but it is much different than her jacket and vibe.
The 80s and doesn't have their life together, but ends up doing the right thing. If you ask me, it would have made way more sense for Supergirl to be listening to modern music, because the song playing in the teaser is Call Me by Blondie, a banger from 1980. The song is 45 years old. Sure, we don't know exactly what year Supergirl arrived on Earth.
We don't even know if that song's gonna be in the movie.
How old she was when she did. We just know she's 23 now. If we go by her comic book origin, she should have arrived after Clark, as a teenager. Let's say she landed at 14. That would have been in 2017, which is 37 years after Call Me came out. It's possible Kara discovered 80s music and got into it, because that's when pop was at its best. And she wouldn't be wrong. Plus,
But again, 80s music is popular with kids these days, and so are 80s movies, and so is like record and vinyl collecting. It's not that weird that someone her age would be doing that. It's really not.
the song fits the movie's theme. It's about a messy girl who's always gonna answer if you call her. It speaks to Supergirl, who starts off as a drunk with zero interest in being a hero, but still won't leave someone hanging if they need her.
Poetry.
But wouldn't it have made more sense for Supergirl to be into current pop artists like Taylor Swift or Dua Lipa?
I don't see her being into Taylor Swift.
Even take Britney Spears or Kesha. Those are at least closer to her time, and they vibe better with the audience this movie's going for. But since Starlord listened to 80s music and he's a super popular character, now Supergirl has to listen to 80s music too. That's not a coincidence. Still, there's no need to panic. Maybe they just did that for the promo material, and no
I'm surprised that Mr. Headcanon is being so, willing to be like, yeah, this is Starlord. That's the way it sounds so far. We'll see the twist at the end. We'll see.
point in the teaser do we see Supergirl wearing Starlord's headphones, and maybe the song's just for the trailer. I mean, it'd be pretty weird for a random alien bar to be playing Earth's 80s hits. But the point is,
not really, because Japan and different countries, or China, they start getting into 80s music and all that, the 90s, way after it's popular in America. You know what I mean? So I could see it working the same way with planets. You know what I mean? You could go to a planet, it's like they're playing Elvis because they just discovered it. You know what I mean? That's very possible.
At least in the promos, DC wants us to get Guardians of the Galaxy vibes. But surely Supergirl's origin story and personality have nothing to do with Starlord's, right? Well, in Guardians 1, Peter Quill is a kid from the 80s stuck in the body of a space adventurer. As a child, he watched his mom die from a terminal illness, and then he was kidnapped by space pirates who ended up raising him. Peter learned to hide his pain behind a cool outlaw attitude and some sarcastic humor. He became a womanizer because he couldn't connect with anyone on a deeper level, and the only thing he truly values is his Walkman, which keeps him tied to his Earth roots and his mom's memory.
Okay.
Mental fool.
I'm starting to kind of follow what he's saying. He's doing a good job.
At the start of the movie, Peter only cares about two things: being famous across the galaxy and getting rich doing whatever job pays. But things go sideways and he ends up in prison with a bunch of misfits just like him. He starts to grow as a character when he refuses to sell the Power Stone because he realizes it could destroy the entire galaxy. That's when we see he has a conscience and cares about more than just himself. Then, in the final fight against Ronan, he's forced to relive his childhood trauma.
Okay, in Supergirl, though, and Woman of Tomorrow, Ruthie knows who she is. I believe that's right. And she knows all the stories about, Superman and Supergirl, and she knows these things. So
He has to reach out his hand to someone he cares about, something he didn't do when his mom was dying. But instead of running away, he takes Gamora's hand and becomes part of a superhero team. He goes from being a scavenger to leading a found family. So we've got a kid who's been through trauma, lost his family and his whole world, and tries to escape reality through music.
The question is, how does this relate to Supergirl?
By the time we get to Guardians 3, he's drinking all day, every day after losing Gamora. Supergirl's story hits a lot of the same beats. She's also going from a grumpy loner to a selfless hero. In both the Superman scene and the teaser, we see her drunk, trying to disconnect from reality, just like
Well, that's for her birthday, though. Not just her way of life. So far, it seems.
Starlord, but her trauma is even heavier. She was born and raised on Krypton, and as a teenager, she had to watch her planet blow up. She survived with her dad and a few other citizens in the only piece of Krypton left, Argo City, a chunk of the planet floating through space. She watched her mom die, and with her last breath, she told her to be good. Exactly like what happened with Starlord, but that was just the beginning of her pain. A meteor shower wiped out Argo City, killing everyone except Kara, who barely escaped in a makeshift rocket built by her dad.
This is a pretty hardcore origin story.
So Supergirl is also a traumatized kid who lost her family and her world, and tries to run from reality. According to what Millie Alcock said at the teaser fan event, Supergirl isn't gonna wanna be a superhero at the start of the movie, but she's gonna learn to be one.
They could do it that way. That's not the way it is in Woman of Tomorrow. She's already a superhero. She's just gone celebrating for her birthday.
Carrying major survivor's guilt. She hasn't fully processed the fact that Krypton and her people are gone and she's still alive. She doesn't get to the point of thinking she didn't deserve to survive, but in the comic, she says she still dreams about Krypton because she hasn't healed from all that trauma. There are definitely some similarities, but calling Supergirl just a copy wouldn't be fair. DC told this origin story in the comics way back in 1959, 17 years before Starlord ever showed up, and that version of Starlord didn't have much in common with
I don't think she was damaged though, which makes no sense.
the one we saw in the movies, which came out 38 years later. It's kinda like the whole Blue Beetle versus Miles Morales.
Oh, is he doing chicken and an egg thing? Is he basically saying like it's like Starlord because Starlord's like her? Is that kind of what he's doing?
The new Spider-Man blew up outside comics way before Blue Beetle did, but the Scarab guy had been around in comics decades earlier. If anything, you could argue James Gunn may have taken some inspiration from Supergirl's origin when reinventing the Guardians for the MCU.
That's what I thought. He did a good job of bringing us to that point of acting as though it's similar because Supergirl could be an inspiration, for I don't think though. I don't. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that Guardians of the Galaxy Star-Lord, there was any inspiration in writing him from Supergirl? Do you think that happened, directly or indirectly? Let me know what you think. He's done a great job of proving his point. I just don't know that it's enough evidence for me to say, oh, that must be what happened.
That'd be a stretch too, because these are just superhero genre cliches. If you don't believe me, name 5 superheroes who aren't orphans and don't have childhood trauma. I dare you. But let's be real, this particular version of Supergirl wouldn't even exist if Guardians hadn't been a massive hit. If Starlord wasn't a pop culture icon, they probably would have gone with a different version of Kara, one that's not a drunk and reluctant hero. Maybe the optimistic and kind-hearted version from the 60s, the protoplasmic life form created by Lex Luthor.
Oh, poor Supergirl's face in that one. Doomsday just destroyed her.
Version from the 60s, the protoplasmic life form created by Lex Luthor.
I have spent so much time staring at that one panel in The Death of Superman. because I'm like, man, she is messed. Is that her eyeball flying way over there? God.
Luther, or Peter David's Linda Danvers, who was all about redemption, faith, and mysticism. But can this new Supergirl really work as well as the Guardians trilogy and make more money than Superman? I'll answer that in this video.
And I reacted to that video. You can click on his, you can click on my, whatever you want to do. Just make sure to subscribe to this channel, subscribe to his channel, subscribe to everybody's channel, and watch another video.